On this week's episode, a blast from the past with That 90s Show. Current projects filming in New England. The Last of Us has us checking out our favorite post-apocalyptic movies and TV shows. And is the movie theater going experience still in jeopardy? For the Hub on Hollywood, I'm James.
I'm Jamie. Let's Armageddon it on.
Let's go. All right, Jamie. So last week we were just talking about how Invitation to a Bonfire starring Tatiana Maslany has been given the axe. It's completely canceled mid-production, mid-filming. However, we must push forward, must move on, right, and continue promoting and talking about the other projects that are continuing at this time to film in New England. That's
right. And you know what? It might not be completely dead. Invitation to a Bonfire, I believe they're trying to shop to other studios. You see if Netflix picks them up or something like that. So
still
hope. There's still hope there. But other projects that are filming right now that we here at the Hub on Hollywood would love to get you cast in. The Short and Tragic Life of Robert Peace. Now, this is filming through the end of this month, through the end of January, filming in New Jersey, Connecticut, New York, a little bit south of us. But this is about a brilliant young black man named Robert Peace who left New Jersey to go to Yale, but fell back into the streets when he returned home and was murdered at a young age, right? He survived all of this violence only to go to school, go to Yale, and then come back and get murdered. Another big project that's getting underway next month, so I'm really hoping that we have castings for this soon to share with you, is called The Instigators. And guess who's in it?
Let me guess. There must be some sort of Affleck and some sort of Damon in there, right?
Yes, there is a combination of Damon and Afflecks in here, starring Matt Damon and Casey Affleck, who play two thieves on the run with the help of one of their therapists after a robbery goes wrong. So this is going to be filming in February through April. It's going to air on Apple. I know, what's up with Ben? He's too busy with his new wife, with his new old wife.
And he's too busy filming those Dunkin' commercials. He was actually at... so we heard it made national news. Apparently, Ben Affleck was seen working at a Dunkin' to surprising those going through the drive-thru. And the awesome thing is that Dunkin' where he went a week or two ago, working there with the film crew and everything. And apparently, J-Lo also showed up and is also in the commercial. But that Dunkin' is right around the corner from where I live. No joke, less than like 4 minutes away. And my wife and I, we go to that Dunkin' like on a routine basis, seemingly. And so we saw it on the news. I'm like, we know that, right? We know where that is. And so we could have seen Ben, but unfortunately we were not there during that time or during that day.
You know what this means?
What does it mean?
You need more dunks. You got to get down there more.
I got to. Trust me, I go to Dunkin' enough, and so I think just my odds are good of running into Ben at one of those. There must be, but I have a theory that this is for a Super Bowl commercial because you have Ben, you have J-Lo, you have Dunkin'. I would bet $10 we're going to see this at the Super Bowl. So,
all right.
Looking forward to that. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's so funny though, but from the pictures that I saw, he's having a great time, right? And J-Lo looks very uncomfortable. I don't know if that's like part of the bit or what, but
yeah, she's in Medford. There's not much to do in Medford.
Yeah. So that's why Ben's not in this movie, guys. That's because he's hanging out at James's Dunkin' Donuts.
He's too busy working
with J-Lo. So it's fabulous to see them here and about, and the fact that they bring all of these projects here to New England, we are very grateful for that. One other project that's getting underway in the spring that we have to look forward to, it's something called The Perfect Couple. Is it starring Bennifer? No, but filming in Massachusetts and Nantucket. It's about a wedding on Nantucket that's delayed when the maid of honor is murdered. So it sounds like a mystery, a darker film there. Begins filming in April through June, so we are looking forward to that. Stay with the Hub on Hollywood. We have casting calls at the end of every episode because we want to get you in the movies. I want to hang out with you on set because, I'm sprinkled throughout. I'm usually on set somewhere at some time. So
Very cool.
Thank you. From a fake murder to a real and tragic incident that happened on set, Alec Baldwin seeing the repercussions of an on-set shooting that left a cinematographer dead.
Yeah, so Alec Baldwin officially charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter for that shooting that happened on the set of Rust. The district attorney talking to CNN as to why they decided to press charges, saying that, one, every person that handles a gun, whether that's the stunt coordinator, the producer, the actor, anybody who gets a hand on a firearm on set, they have to make sure that it's unloaded, that it's not dangerous, and handle it with care. They also said that there was such a lack of safety on set with live rounds being mixed with dummy rounds on set. And because Alec Baldwin is not only the actor who pulled the trigger, but he's also a producer of the movie. And the kicker is, however, and this one I was actually kind of surprised, and now even more so after the charges, but CNN is reporting that Alec Baldwin plans to finish filming the movie Rust, despite being charged. An attorney for the movie production confirmed that the movie is still on track for completion and that Baldwin will star in the movie. Jamie, is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Do you think jurors will look at this negatively? What do you think?
I think it's a terrible idea, but he resumed filming Rust with the intentions of finishing it with the approval of the family of Helena Hutchins. So her husband was added as, I believe, a producer on the film, and they had made a to-do about it in that, he wanted his wife's final project to exist, right? To reach completion in honor of her memory. That being said, I don't know that is still the smartest idea. When this movie comes out, I feel like people are going to watch it, out of morbid curiosity. And I worry that it'd be twisted. And I think it would probably be more respectful in my opinion, which what does that count for? But to maybe let this rest.
Do you think this movie still has a chance at appearing and debuting in theaters, as opposed to the studio just saying, let's just release this on one of the streaming services, release it quietly, don't make a big fuss about it? Or do you think they're still going to be going for a theatrical run?
I would probably believe that if I were in that position as an executive, I would say, hey, let's give this a nice quiet release, on the streaming services and not make a big to-do. But you never know. I would hope that they don't make a big to-do about it, because I think that could very easily get twisted and morbid, and I wouldn't want to see that happen, because she also leaves behind a child, and it's a bad situation all the way around. And she wasn't the only one that was shot. She lost her life, but the director was also shot as a result of that round that Alec Baldwin, The other thing that Alec Baldwin is arguing here is that he did not pull the trigger, which I think is kind of silly.
The investigation.
Right.
Yeah, I think you can argue in court, with the trauma and the sudden shock of what happened, you could, in your mind, believe you did not pull the trigger, or your brain doesn't comprehend that you pulled the trigger. But according to the investigation, there's no way that this gun could have gone off without somebody pulling the trigger. And so I think that's going to be a very open and close kind of case or piece of evidence going forward with this, even though, again, he said Alec Baldwin says and denies ever pulling the trigger. At this point, it just seems like logistically and mechanically it's not possible for that firearm to have gone off without that. So I do think that the smart choice would be to release this via streaming service without much publicity or advertisement. Also, the thing is, Alec Baldwin is not the only person being charged for involuntary manslaughter. There is another member on the production team who also reportedly is planning to plead guilty, and then that may lead to testimony against Alec Baldwin and other people for misconduct, for negligence, and for creating such a allegedly creating an unsafe work environment.
Right.
But again, just terrible all around, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. One thing that's not terrible, which I hope is not terrible, and it's coming off the heels of I Want to Dance with Somebody, a biopic talking about some of the most influential and inspiring musical performances. First we had Bohemian Rhapsody, then we had Elton John, the Rocket Man movie, then we had the Whitney Houston biopic. Now we're getting word that Michael Jackson is getting a biopic of his own. What are your initial thoughts on this? Is it too soon? Are we just going through all the top performers and milk them for what it's worth?
Well, obviously they make money. So they've when Hollywood finds a winning formula, they beat it like a dead horse, for sure. I'm just, my question is, who is writing it? From what perspective are we getting the story of Michael Jackson? Michael Jackson, one of the most famous people on the planet, also the most controversial, with so many different views and perspectives and narratives about who he was, what his life really was, what he experienced, what he did. It's going to be difficult to create a biopic because we don't know a lot. We don't know for sure. Like, there's so many different perspectives on his life. So who is telling the story of Michael Jackson, and what kind of a story are we getting, especially in his later years and with the accusations of child sexual abuse, and in that he was so isolated towards the end of his life, and he was sort of controlled by various people in his life. You don't know what the real story was. So right. I just think that it's going to be really difficult to tell his story.
Yeah, if they have as much family collaboration as, say, the creators of Elvis, it showed, of course, Elvis's ups and downs, but it showed him more as the victim and in a more favorable light, even though he had some of his own controversies. And so, if the Michael Jackson biopic has a lot of the Jackson family involved in it, then I'm sure then a lot of his negative low points or controversial moments in life will be maybe talked about, referenced, but not really diving deep into it. The director and writer of this is filmmaker Antoine Fuqua, whose credits include Training Day, The Equalizer, and Emancipation, starring Will Smith. So these are very heavy topic movies that really do show really gritty and hard, gut-wrenching things. And so if with that being his background, I could see it taking a darker or more realistic look at Michael's life if there isn't much Jackson family input. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's what it really depends on.
I agree with that. That's why I'm curious, like, who's signed on, who's working with them, or maybe it'll focus on the music. And I think maybe
the making of Thriller. If they just do a movie on the creation of Thriller, that'll be good, right? There's nothing bad happened during that time, as far as we know. But that sounds interesting,
right? Because I think one of the best parts of all of these movies that they're making is the music and how they make the music and experiencing that in movie and cinematic surround sound. So here's hoping that they go the lighter route.
Yeah, well, the director, the filmmaker, says it's combining film and music. He's really excited because he started his career directing music videos, and so he has that music experience. So we will keep an eye on that biopic. One thing that we also have to keep an eye on is the movie theater going experience and how people are either going back to the movie theater or not. And unfortunately, according to a study, apparently older folks, they're not interested in going back to the movie theater. This new study looked at people over 40 years old. At the time before the pandemic, those over 40 bought over 40% of all movie tickets in the U.S. and in Canada, but that's no longer the case. Apparently, the big reason is no big box office names on the marquee. They're pointing to movies like the superhero movies where Thor or Captain America or Iron Man are the main attraction, not so much Chris Hemsworth or Chris Evans or these other movies where the IP is the real star. And so that's a big reason why apparently Gen Xers and 85% of baby boomers say they did not go to a single movie last month. Instead, they're staying at home, streaming movies online because the experience is cheaper, safer, and apparently it's just as or even more rewarding to watch it at home as opposed to a multiplex.
Well, you know, Clint Eastwood's getting old, James, and movies like that where they feature someone like that who's a star of the boomer generation, you know. Gran Torino, love that, get off my lawn. Mr. Clint Eastwood. But I can see that, especially with the boomers, they're getting older. And it's more difficult for them to get out. And we've just come out of a pandemic, and so it's safer for them to stay home. It's a little bit more difficult for them to get there. And Gen X, you know, they've got teenagers at this point, and you know they're getting a little bit on in years too, and they just want to stay home and snuggle up on the couch, and you know, maybe they're starting to slow down as well. So I think it's on us, James. It's on us. It's on millennials,
millennials and Gen Zers,
to show up, to start showing up. But especially with Gen Z, they're used to everything being available at the drop of a hat on every device. So they didn't really grow up with that love of that cinematic experience as much, you know, with that being like the only way to experience movies. They've always had an option. So it's just fascinating to see things, how things evolve. Oh, James, okay, ask me, what are my children's generation called? What's after Gen Z? Because they're coming up.
I don't even want to know. Oh, goodness. Okay,
I'll give you a hint.
They are... Okay, go.
I'll give you a hint. Think Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump, generation, generation.
Think Generation
Jenny?
Gen A.
Gen A. Right? Oh, that was good. Okay, that was good. Okay, so they're generation. I guess that makes sense because after Z, you just re-loop again if we go back to A.
Right. And every time I hear Gen A, I think Forrest Gump. I think Gen A.
Wow, so. My goodness. The time is flying, and I don't like it.
You don't like it.
Goodness.
You are about to give birth to Gen A. You and Allie, and congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's just another piece of evidence and proof that time gets us all.
It's coming for us.
I'm entering an existential crisis. But that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't even think about the latest generation after Z. Okay, well, on that note, let's talk about the apocalypse, and the demise of mankind. Why don't we?
Oh my God, when is it all gonna end? Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, speaking about things that just started is The Last of Us, and last week I did a initial review, first look of the first episode of The Last of Us, starring Pedro Pascal, based off the video game live adaptation of the same title, same name. I thought it was fantastic. Really looking forward to the next episode. You watched the first episode recently, right?
Yes, I did. And I didn't mean to give you an existential crisis, but let's go solidly into that territory.
Let's dive deeper.
So can we talk a little bit of spoilers here?
Absolutely.
All right, spoiler alert
for first episode
of The Last of Us. On HBO Max. So I really connected with it. I thought that it brings you into the moment and it makes you feel like you're right there with the characters, and you get to experience how their totally normal, regular life gets flipped on its head in a moment. And it's really eerie the way that we follow the little girl in the beginning, Sarah, and there are things that are not quite right around her, but she's not really picking up on it. And that kind of like just slow and gentle progression. You see this really good, really sweet girl who takes care of her neighbors, takes care of her dad, you know, has friends at school, and just a totally regular teenager, 2003, which, you know, we were back then as well. when everything just, she wakes up and the world has lost its mind and everything is changing. I will just say this about Sarah. Look, when the TV says, do not go outside, stay in your house, don't go outside, don't open the door. Come on, child. Come on. You should know better.
I know, I do hear you. But how could she leave that dog outside? You have to go out at least for the dog.
No, leave the dog. Right? I don't care.
Leave the dog?
Or bring the dog in. Bring the dog into your house. You don't go outside. But as you were mentioning last time, right, the scenes of them driving in the car and the perspective of the camera flipping around in the car, and it felt very much like you were there, you were in the moment, like a video game almost. They also did a really good job of that in Hawkeye, where they were having a chase scene in the car and the camera is like just spinning in all directions, like 360 views of what's happening in this vehicle. And I want to know how they did it. It must have been like a robotic camera, because you don't see any cameraman or anything in the car with them. And the falling airplanes, like it gave me that rush. It gave me that adrenaline. It gave me that feeling of, wow, this could be real. Like, this is a scene straight out of my nightmares. And from that, James, I went on a kick. I went on a doomsday Armageddon disaster movie kick, because I loved that feeling. I think The Last of Us did such a great job of that. I'm like, I need more of this. I need more of a fix before the next episode comes out next week. But
some people just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, exactly. But I found that there are very few disaster movies that do it well.
Yeah, I actually I was going through my list, because we both made this list of our favorite apocalyptic movies, and I got quite a few that, again, just going through the Rolodex of films, that I think I have a solid group of movies that anybody who is in this mood should quickly write down and then put it in the queue.
Yeah, I've got my favorites and I've got my one worst by far. So do you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I'll start with, I'll go with the John Krasinski A Quiet Place, where aliens and aliens who hunt based off the sound of noise or any noise they're attracted to, and then they quickly overtake the humans and apparently the world, and then the humans living in this post-apocalyptic hellscape must live life in silence or run the risk of being eaten and torn to shreds. And so that's a really, really good movie. I haven't seen part 2, but I hear great things about the sequel, A Quieter Place.
Okay. An even quieter place.
An even quieter place.
Oh my God. Okay, great. I want to give, so I would say my, whatchamacallit, I want to give kudos to the movie Deep Impact.
Nice.
I think that they did, as far as like meteor movies go or whatever, I think they did a pretty decent job of that, and the ending is very solid. It takes you along with these characters, I feel like, in a mostly believable way. There are some parts where like the tension is forced, like in the beginning it's like all the astronauts are gonna go and try to destroy this meteor or whatever. There's like this artificial conflict between the older guy and the younger guys. It's like, look, in real life, all of these people are scientists, they're professionals, and they would, be so thankful for each other's company and relying on each other for their expertise. Like, there wouldn't be this artificial conflict, right, between them, or friction. So I thought that was totally unnecessary. I did enjoy seeing Jon Favreau in it. Jon Favreau is one of the astronauts. I completely didn't even realize he was in it. So Mr. Happy, Mr. Marvel, Jon Favreau. So it was kind of exciting to see him there. But we've got a young Elijah Wood as Leo Biederman, who helps discover the meteorite, and everyone else that is in this. Morgan Freeman is the president. So just a great cast, pretty solid disaster movie with good moments of that adrenaline, I felt like. So I give it an 8 out of 10. Excellent.
So I'm going with a comedic post-apocalyptic world. This is The End, starring James Franco, Seth Rogen, Jay Baruchel, Danny McBride, and Craig Robinson about this. The actors are playing themselves in this film. It's Armageddon, pretty much, where this chosen ones are lifted up to heaven, and everyone else who is banished to this terrible, self-destructing world, and many of them are actors in Hollywood. And so this one is really, really funny. One of my favorite Seth Rogen movies up there, and because everyone is just playing themselves, cranked up to 11, it's hilarious. I've seen this multiple times, so it's a solid watch.
I think Channing Tatum goes a little too far at the end of that movie.
He does not go far enough. He was great.
I was like, oh my
Fantastic.
God, Channing.
Again, just a great cast. Jonah Hill, of course, fantastic. And Seth Rogen, amazing in this. So this is hilarious. So this is the end. I recommend it if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, and not for the kids, obviously.
No. No.
So let's see. Train to Busan.
Ooh, very nice. Very good pick.
Yes, I accidentally traumatized my son with this movie. But it is so good. It is so well done. The zombies are fast. Man, fast zombies are so scary. So it is about a man and his estranged daughter and other passengers who become trapped on a speeding train during a zombie apocalypse in South Korea. It was just... of the zombie movies, of all of the zombie movies that have ever been made, it is by far the best. I had so much fun watching this, and the way that they just subtly have those moments in the background where things are going wrong, but the main characters don't notice it, and they make that last train. It's just so brilliant. It's so well done. I can't praise it enough. Just don't watch it with the kids. Even though my son begged to watch this, he was totally traumatized by it. But I'm like, no, baby, look, it's just a movie. I love how the actors portraying the zombies moved, and just how much they committed to the role, and that really disturbing but fast movement, and it was just brilliant. It was completely brilliant. So Train to Busan, definitely the top of my list. And the best zombie movie, I think, that's been made by far. We can learn from them.
Oh, no, yeah. I think you recommended that film to me, and I watched it, and I was thoroughly impressed with that, too. So very good placement on that list. Keeping the theme of zombies, Shaun of the Dead, a classic film about zombies. And so that one is very fun. Have you seen it?
I've seen bits and pieces. I don't think I've ever watched it all the way through.
Yeah, Simon Pegg is fantastic in this film. Sean is a 30-something-year-old loser with a dull, easy existence, but when he's not working at the electronics store, he lives with his slovenly best friend Ed in a small flat, and then the town is inexplicably overrun with zombies, and Sean must rise to the occasion and protect both Liz and his mother. Such a classic, perfect movie all around. It's one of those movies that I think is perfect from beginning to end, script-wise, character-wise, casting-wise. Can't beat it. If you're looking for a comedic zombie apocalyptic movie, this is it.
Okay, so my number one apocalyptic movie is something that I hadn't even heard of until I went searching for this kind of movie. I watched it a couple nights ago. I'm like, why didn't I know about this before? This is so perfect. It's called Greenland. Have you ever heard of this? Starring Gerard Butler.
I have heard of it.
Yeah. So Greenland, starring Gerard Butler, Morena Baccarin, Scott Glenn from Daredevil is in it. It's about this family that gets chosen for a bunker when this asteroid or meteor comes and is set to destroy the Earth. What I love about this movie so much is in the very beginning, he's a structural engineer. They're going about their regular life. And people know that there's a meteor coming, but they've been assured by the government and all the scientists and all the officials that there's nothing to worry about. It's coming nowhere near the planet, but we're going to get this great, beautiful light show in the sky because it's passing so close. So people know about it. It's a top story on the news, but what they don't know is that it is actually the end of the world, that this thing is going to destroy the planet. And so just as it's getting close enough for it to produce the promised light show, families start getting this alert, this presidential alert, asking them to report to the airport because they've been selected for shelter. And that gets people, it's like, what does that mean? What do they mean? I mean, why would we have to go anywhere for shelter? This is not supposed to be a disaster or anything like that. And neighbors start turning against neighbor, and it starts to leak out what is actually happening. And it just feels to me like a much more believable storyline of what would happen, I think, in real life, that they would try to prevent panic as long as humanly possible, until it's too late, right? So by the time that people have figured out what is actually going on, they only have 48 hours. And this family, they get selected, they make it on the plane, but their son has diabetes, and they reject him. They said, sorry, you shouldn't have been approved. No illnesses, no diabetes, no illnesses, no sicknesses. And so they're cast back out into the world. And they have to try to find another way to get to Greenland, which is where they have the bunkers, these bunkers that are sheltering the last of humanity, and everything that they go through, getting separated, and dealing with people that are trying to take their wristbands and all of this. It just felt very believable. Lots of great adrenaline moments. For me, it's all about believability for me.
Where's it streaming?
Let's see. It's on Hulu. You can watch it now on Hulu.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now I want to check it out. That sounds good.
Yeah. And Gerard Butler, anything that he is in, he is incredible. He's amazing.
He's really good.
I like looking at his face. It's good, I highly recommend, if you want a truly authentic end of the world type movie involving meteors, I think Greenland does it best. I also have a truly worst movie that I'd like to get to too, because I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with that.
Okay, excellent. Well, I'll just say my last favorite too. My last favorite are Mad Max Fury Road, starring Charlize Theron and Tom Hardy. So good. The Mad Max franchise and this latest movie came out. There's going to be a spin-off or kind of a prequel of Furiosa's character, played by Anna Taylor-Joy. So looking forward to that. So Mad Max Fury Road, amazing movie, beautifully shot, incredible. One of those also, like, I would consider a near perfect, if not perfect movie. But my favorite post-apocalyptic movie is Children of Men, starring Clive Owen and Julianne Moore and Michael Caine. This is regarded as a very, very good movie and really showing, like, if society breaks down, what like you said, could be realistic possibilities that we could see actually happening. And so the story is about when infertility threatens mankind with extinction and the last child born has perished, a disillusioned bureaucrat played by Clive Owen becomes the unlikely champion in the fight for the survival of Earth's population. And as you mentioned earlier, talking about The Last of Us, making it seem very realistic, you're really put into the action of it, including that car chase or getaway scene. Children of Men has one of the best, if not the best, car scenes with that kind of rotating camera visual look in any movie ever. And I do recommend, if you haven't seen Children of Men, one, watch it, and then afterwards watch how they did it, how they made it, the behind the scenes of that car chase scene, because it's incredible. They're using actual driving. There's a camera pointing downward from the top of the roof that's kind of sheared off, and it's constantly in rotation and done in like one shot, and it's incredible. So wow. Children of Men, high up there, the top of the post-apocalyptic favorite movies.
Children of Men, is that where they had a scene towards the end where they're in the middle of this vicious, violent battle, and then the baby starts crying, and it stops everyone from fighting?
Maybe, but I'll never tell. Check it out.
That was amazing.
I do recommend it.
That was amazing. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that one. I almost forgot about that movie. That is amazing. Yeah. What's not amazing?
Your worst.
What is not amazing, James? And I could not believe, like, this was supposed to be a serious movie. This was supposed to be a blockbuster, right? Moonfall. Have you ever watched Moonfall, James?
You know what? I have not seen Moonfall. I have heard of it, and I'll let you give your general opinion. Then I'll give you what I hear about it.
Listen,
so, what are your thoughts on it?
It shouldn't exist. It is
That's
so
fair.
awful. It is so terrible. Every aspect of this movie is not believable. It's starring Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, John Bradley, Sam of Game of Thrones fame. Donald Sutherland is in it. It's got all of these incredible actors and the most atrocious script. The dumbest story, from the fact that the astronauts all hate each other, and like just all the dynamics between all of the characters and all of these people that are supposed to be government officials. Like, nobody is true to life. Nobody is true to reality. And then it turns...
So go over the plot, because the moon, I understand, is
Oh,
falling to
Lord.
Earth for some reason, but, and this is a spoiler, so we'll go into the spoilers of this, but apparently the moon is alive of sorts, or at least something inside the moon is alive.
Yeah. The moon.
Yeah.
The world stands on the brink of annihilation when the moon leaves its orbit and it's on a collision course with Earth. And it turns out that the moon is a megastructure built by our ancient alien ancestors and some other nanobot alien AI is trying to destroy the moon because it wants to wipe out all organic life in the universe. And these unlikely characters figure this all out and find a way to save the moon from the alien AI, and everyone survives. And the moon just harmlessly bounces off the Earth and goes back into its orbit, and everybody is fine after all of this. And it's just so terrible. Every aspect of this movie, the writing in particular, just makes me want to gag and throw up.
So what I've heard about this movie is that it's one of those movies where like everyone knows what kind of movie this is. It's campy, it's cheesy, it's on the borderline of B-movie-esque and like acting style, and it's meant to be. I've heard it's one of those movies where like it's kind of like Snakes on a Plane, where like the premise is so goofy and cheesy that it's just ridiculous fun.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Is I don't think they make that distinction enough. Like, the whole beginning of this movie is like they play it like a straight, regular, serious, apocalyptic movie. And it's dumb, but it's I don't think they make enough of a distinction here that this is supposed to be that way. So it's just... I feel like it's a mess, because you've got Halle Berry in it, and she is playing everything super straight.
Yeah, that's why it's so great, from what I hear. Again, I haven't seen it. I haven't been really, like, wanting or eager to see it. If it's
Yeah.
on TV, I may watch it in passing, but, again, I've heard it's just one of those, like, snakes on a plane kind of movie where it's just
Yeah.
ridiculous on purpose.
Like, the male protagonist really reminds me of Sharknado, like the male protagonist from Sharknado.
Right,
But-
like Sharknado, yeah.
I went into this thinking it was a serious movie, and
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that doesn't make enough of a distinction to let you know that it's just... I think it's just a hot mess. I think it's a
Now,
hot
if someone
mess.
told you, think Sharknado before going into it, do you think that would have changed your perception of it?
I think it would have helped a little bit, but I feel like the movie also needs to help you make that distinction
Right.
too. So I think it was just a hot mess. So Moonfall, don't go into it thinking it's going to be, a good movie, or don't go into it thinking it's going to be a straight kind of apocalyptic movie. I mean, even if it was a parody, I don't even think it was funny. I don't think it was done well enough to be a parody. It just made me mad. I don't know. So that's my thought on it.
Okay, well, let us know what you think of our list of our favorite and least favorite apocalyptic movies. Leave your favorite movie down in the comments down below. We are the Hub on Hollywood. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Hub on Hollywood. So go ahead and join the conversation, and we'll give you a shout out in the next episode. If you are watching us on YouTube, thank you very much. Be sure to hit like, subscribe. If you are listening to us on any of the major podcasting streaming services like iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, leave a 5-star review and show us some love. But what's also getting some love, I guess you could call it a spin-off of sorts. It's the 70s show, but for a new generation, that 90s show that just came out on Netflix. And so far, it's getting pretty good reviews, pretty decent reviews. I would say 74% on the tomato meter, 75% approval score on the audience score. Were you a fan, a watcher of the original, that 70s show?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Yeah, that was my age range. I was it came out, debuted, I think, in 98, so I was 8 years old, watched it from the beginning to practically the end. I kind of jumped off in the later seasons after Eric Foreman's character left and departed, but it was such a fun show that I think still holds up pretty well. This one takes place, of course, in the 90s. In 1995, we follow Leia Foreman, who is the daughter of Eric and Donna, who is 14 years old. She's visiting her grandparents, Red and Kitty, back in Wisconsin. If you like that 70s show, I think you're going to like this show because, like the original series, there's a bit of nostalgia for certain generations who lived in that time period. So that's the fun part of it, too. But more so, it's talking about the kids and their interactions with each other and being a teenager. It just happens to take place in the 90s. So Kurtwood Smith and Deborah Jo Rupp return for their roles as Red and Kitty. Great seeing them jumping right back into character. They are very prominent in the show, which is a very good thing to have them back in there because they work so well together. So it's great to see them back on the same screen. We are reintroduced to the original cast: Topher Grace, Laura Prepon, Mila Kunis, Ashton Kutcher, Wilmer Valderrama. They come back as their original characters, now, of course, grown up and now dropping off their kids for the summer in Wisconsin. The show, though, is, even though we do get the nostalgia of the 90s of the original cast members, it is a show about the next generation of kids who are played by actual teenagers, so that's always a good thing. We see Callie Haverda. She plays Leia, who is a mix of her goofy, awkward nerd like her dad, but is also kind of strong and stubborn at times like her mom, Donna. We're introduced to Kelso and Jackie, reintroduced to them, and their son Jay, as well as new characters like the next-door neighbor Gwen, her brother Nate, Nate's girlfriend, and then their other friends Nikki and Ozzy. This feels like that 70s show, just with a new generation of kids, and I think that's a really good strength for it, especially that they shoot it in front of a live studio audience. So you do get that kind of cheesy, kind of old sitcom feel of a show that we don't really see nowadays. And so that's a very, I wouldn't call it refreshing, but if you like that 70s show, you know what you're getting with this show. And I think the new characters, the new actors are good at what they do. They're fun, and you're interested in, just the adventures and the wacky, zany things that these teenagers do. So that would be my recommendation. If you like that 70s show, I would recommend this. Won't give away any spoilers. Not that there's much to spoil, but I think it's a good show that you could just put on, maybe not pay full attention to, but it's enough to get a good number of laughs out of.
You know what feels nice to me is seeing Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis back together because they're married in real life, correct? They met on that 70s show, and their characters, end up together. So I thought that was really nice. I had so much fun watching the original series, so I've got to check it out at some point. But other than that, let's see. I'm not really watching much over here except more end of the world movies.
More doom and gloom movies.
More doom and gloom. And, in between that, Blippi and Cocomelon and all of that. So, the regular. But what should we be watching next? What do you need the Hub on Hollywood to review and do for you next? Let us know down in the comments below, and we will give it a watch, give it a listen. This has been a jam-packed episode.
But what we are doing...
What are we doing?
And what we're going to do for you, the listeners, is help you land your first gig, your role in a movie, commercial, or TV show that's filming here in New England. So stick around after the credits for our latest casting calls. We are at Hub on Hollywood on all the social media platforms. You can stream us on any of the major podcasting streaming services, as well as catch us on YouTube. But for the Hub on Hollywood, I'm James.
I'm Jamie. See you then.
Bye.
Okay, James, let's get people cast in the movies. There's a number of projects, film, television, and commercials looking for people right now. We're going to start with Slate Casting. Slate Casting is looking for brunette women, African American, Latina, or Caucasian women, non-union, 45 to 55 years old, who are available on January 25th and January 27th in the Boston area. You must be local to New England. If you are interested and fully available, please email slateselftape@gmail.com with your name, contact information, headshot and resume, city you currently live in, and several photos, both candid and professional if you have them.
Perfect. CP Casting, looking for boys and girls for a live musical performance. They're looking for boys and girls between 8 and 10 years old who are actors and singers. This is for a symphonic version of Ragtime, the musical, for the Boston Pops, currently scheduled for rehearsals and performances on May 3rd through the 13th in Boston and July 6th through the 8th in Lenox. This is a paid gig. So auditions include singing and acting in a self-tape submission with in-person callback auditions taking place in February. So if you are an actor, singer, if you have a child who is a boy or girl between 8 and 10 years old, send your full name, phone number, where you currently live right now, headshot, recent photo, acting, singing resume with any related musical performance experience. Send that to cpcastingsubmission2023@gmail.com.
All right. Boston Casting is looking for Chinese men, 60s to 70s, non-union. Acting experience is a plus. You must speak fluent Chinese and conversational English for an upcoming project. This shoots in mid to late March. So if this sounds like you, 60 to 70 years old, Chinese man who can speak fluent Chinese and conversational English, please submit to bostoncasting1@gmail.com. You're going to want to include your contact information, acting experience, current photo, and where you're located. And in the subject line, write Chinese man, 60s to 70s, with your name.
All right, Boston Casting, looking for marriage stories for a streaming series pitch. They're looking for women 35 to 50 years old, married for 10 years or more. Pay is around $250 for a half-day shoot, which takes place on January 23rd, and you will only be needed for 1 day. So if you match that description, send your contact information, headshot, photo, resume, bio, where you live, and how long you've been married. Send that to Boston Casting Headshot and Resume at gmail.com. Boston Casting Headshot and Resume at gmail.com. In the subject line, put marriage stories / your name.
And as we mentioned at the beginning of our episode, there are a number of films that are coming our way. Very exciting. The Instigators getting underway next month in February. That's with Matt Damon and Casey Affleck. The Perfect Couple filming April through June on Nantucket. So as soon as we get casting calls for those, we will be sure to let you know, and we'll see you on set. Thank you for listening to The Hub on Hollywood. If this sounds like you or anyone that you know, please share, please let them know about us, and continue to listen and have fun with us on The Hub on Hollywood, talking about movies and films in New England. So thanks for listening. See you next time.
Bye.